My presentation will very much focus on the importance of dog population management in sustainable development. But before deep diving into the topic, I wanted to address some of the systemic issues, outline some of the systemic issues that has came up in a couple of presentations over the course of last 2 days as well, which we believe are the systemic challenges. And they are, for dog population management, there is almost zero priority at the political level in almost all of the lower and middle income countries. There is a lack of legislative framework, zero to minimal investment in any program to improve companion animal welfare. There is a lack of awareness at the people level on solutions, lack of knowledge on what the solution could look like, lack of necessary fundamentals like veterinary facilities, veterinarians for companion animals, professional rehoming rescue operations, and lack of adequate number of local NGOs to raise the voice and put pressure, and lack of coordination among small number that exist. These we have identified as some of the major systemic issues contributing to dog-human conflict in majority of the lower and middle income countries. But we also know that without government engagement, humane management of dogs cannot happen sustainably. And we also know that governments around the world have not taken this issue with the seriousness it deserves. But let's look at some of the big problems that governments in local lower middle income countries focuses on generally. So these are just the examples. In Nepal, to this day, 2020 data suggests that 28 children under 5 are dying out of every 1,000 live births, right? That's 107 in Sierra Leone. In Sierra Leone, 86 adults are suffering from moderate to severe food insecurity. That's 86% of adult. 37% in Nepal, 70% in Afghanistan. You can see their per capita income is also on a very lower side. And these are just some examples, and there are many others like access to primary education, unemployment rate amongst the youth, access to clean water and sanitation. So these are all the big priorities that majority of the governments in lower and middle income countries tends to focus on. Dog population management will have to find its way through these big priorities if government were to engage in dog population management. So I want to ask this question to the conference. Why should your government invest in dog population management? Please do provide your answers in the chat box as I continue to present. And those answers will be very valuable, not just for us here in the ICAM, but for us all to really look at those answers and to explore a bit in depth. So why should any government invest in dog population management, given there are so many competing priorities? What is the convincing argument for the government to invest in dog population management? And that is the theme of my presentation: strengthening the why of dog population management so that government engages and it will help us to manage the population of dogs in a sustainable way. And again, please do type in your answers in the chat box. Before I proceed, few important points. One is, again, all of these has come up in the last 2 days as well, and I won't dwell on it too much. Improving welfare of dogs and cats, for that matter, is a continuous process. Cat or dog population management is a finite project, is a myth that needs to be broken. The scale of the challenge differs widely depending on context, and as such, scope of intervention also varies widely. The issue of cat and dog welfare and stray dogs in particular cannot be dealt with in isolation from the people they live amongst or indeed belong to. And we have just talked about the progressive change that is required. And this will involve many years, decades of concerted government effort and funding, and could never be without government involvement and financial contribution. I'm just putting this slide here just to note that whenever we say dog population management, or in the context of my presentation, dog population management, the term means what you can see on the right hand of your screen, that in its totality. Legislation on enforcement, responsible behavior promotion, access to reproduction control, identification and registration, access to veterinary care, so on and so forth. We all know this, so I won't dwell too much into this. But when I'm using the term dog population management, that's what it means. And dog population dynamics. This is, again, I won't go into the details, but these two are critical fundamental concepts if we want to see effective implementation of dog population management system. Now let's look at sustainable development goals. What are they? This is the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, adopted by all United Nations member states in 2015, provided blueprint for development, peace, and prosperity, now and into the future. At its heart are 17 Sustainable Development Goals. These are the urgent calls for action by all countries, regardless of level of their income, in a global partnership. Under each goal, there are several targets and indicators. Even the regional institutions like SARC, South Asian Association for Regional Control, or African Union, they use Sustainable Development Goals as a blueprint to shape their development priorities. So this is what majority of the countries, lower and middle income countries in particular, uses to shape their development policies, to put it simply. So what is the link between DPM and SDGs as it stands today? Let's look into those. To start with, there are no sustainable development goals that corresponds with dog population management. We believe it was a missed opportunity. No country can claim progress without appropriate policies and programs to protect welfare of species that live together with people. And dogs are one of such species that are closest, that lives closer than any other species that I certainly know of. And this relationship has been going on for over 14,000 years. But the close inspection of Sustainable Development Goals clearly demonstrates that dog population management could play an important role in facilitating the achievement of some SDGs. Let's look into those. Let's start with Sustainable Development Goal 3, SDG 3, good health and well-being, ensuring healthy lives and promoting well-being for all at all ages. We know that there are over 60 dog-mediated zoonotic disease transmitted to humans, including those of primary concern for public health, such as rabies, leishmaniasis, and echinococcosis. Rabies is one such well-known disease, and we heard in yesterday's talk as well about rabies. It's a disease that is estimated to kill over 59,000 people annually. It's an estimate, and majority of them are children under 15 years of age. It's a disease of poverty. It's a disease that impacts mostly the marginalized and poorest section of the community, even in the lower and middle income countries. And target 3 of this goal specifically talks about eliminating zoonotic no, neglected tropical diseases by 2030 from around the world. And rabies is listed as one of those diseases. So if we were to sustainably achieve that target of eliminating rabies by 2030, we believe the government needs to start to look into dog population management as well. Yes, mass dog vaccination is critical. It's the way to eliminate rabies, but we believe dog population management is needed for sustainability of any mass dog vaccination interventions. And dog population management is One Health in action. It's an example of One Health. Dog population management helps to prevent the diseases in dogs and public health and improves the environment as well. And we heard quite a lot about One Health yesterday as well. And last but by no means the least, mental health. Many studies have now established the positive impact of dogs on mental health and well-being. A UK study found that pet ownership among homeless people accrued multiple health and social benefits, including respite from loneliness, isolation, and depression, and reduction in suicidal thoughts, substance misuse, and criminal activity. Dogs have been found to act as catalysts for social interaction. They make it easier for us to have social interactions and expand our social network. We are also social creatures that require social interactions to thrive, and dogs can have significant impact on our well-being. Anecdotal evidences from low and middle income countries also suggest that positive interaction with free-roaming dogs in the community helps people forget about daily stressors and offers them temporary joy and contentment, which leads to improved well-being in the long term. That certainly has been my personal experience as well growing up in the streets of Kathmandu, where you find lots of free-roaming dogs, community dogs. And whenever you see a dog wagging its tail and looking at you, you tend to forget all your sorrows in that moment. And I'm sure that is the shared experience across the board. So dog population management certainly contributes to good health and well-being. DPM includes ensuring all dogs have access to primary health care. Its implementation results in considerable reduction in the number of dog bites. This directly contributes to better public health by reducing trauma and cost of injuries. The majority of the countries with high prevalence of zoonotic diseases lack robust surveillance system. However, with dog population management in place, in particular, access to veterinary and animal health professional care for dogs, quick identification of zoonotic disease in dogs, followed by testing, reporting, and appropriate response becomes possible. By the way, that picture is of my older son playing with a free-roaming dogs, community dog in Kathmandu. Now let's look at another SDG, SDG 11, which is about making cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. 55% of the world's population lived in urban areas in 2018, and this proportion is expected to increase to 68% by 2050, an addition of over 2.5 billion people to urban areas. This is equivalent to approximately 236,000 people moving to an urban area every day. And over 90% of this increase is predicted to take place in Asia and Africa. So what does this mean for dog-human relationship? We believe this is an area that certainly can do with lots of further exploration and further in-depth study. We certainly invite all the participants, including the institutions that you represent, to look into this matter more in depth. We certainly will. What we do know in the context of urbanization and dogs is that dog feces in public areas are a common sight in lower and middle income countries. and presents both a risk of parasite transmission from dog to dog and a public health issue. Dog bites are common in communities with unmanaged dogs. Some studies estimate that dogs account for 76 to 94% of animal bite injuries in low and middle income countries. In Southeast Asia alone, 19.1 million dog bites are estimated to occur every year. The injuries, some of them fatal, and trauma associated with these dog bites are part and parcel of living in poorer communities of low and middle income countries. Again, in my own personal experience, I do not have a single friend or family member who has not been bitten by a dog. But thankfully, all of them are good and well. And we also have the issue in some places about noise pollution from dog barking and urban waste and dogs issues as well. So dog population management creates better cities for dogs and humans. There is no doubt about that. Local governments must consider the management of dogs that coexist with humans in order to create safe and sustainable cities. Effective design and implementation of DPM programs will reduce unmanaged dogs, reduce unwanted breeding of dogs, reduce dog bites, and support elimination of dog-mediated zoonotic diseases like rabies. One of the key outcomes of DPM is responsible ownership of dogs. This is critical to reducing abandonment of dogs to already crowded urban streets. Responsible ownership and care of the community dogs also includes ensuring dogs are appropriately fed, avoiding the need to forage in waste for their nutrition. Now let's look at Sustainable Development Goal number 8, which is about decent work and economic growth. Promoting sustained, inclusive, and sustainable economic growth, full and productive employment, and decent work for all. In low and middle income countries, DPM policies and initiatives have the potential to bring in much needed productive employment at local level. Low and middle income countries have highest densities of free roaming dogs and face some of the greatest challenges with creating productive formal employment and decent work. A contribution to solving these challenges is investment in dog management services. Services such as identification and registration system, running facilities for housing and rehoming dogs, and small animal veterinary services could provide decent employment opportunities for a range of skills. These employment opportunities are for long term, as dog population management must be sustained and adopted on an ongoing basis. Developing dog population management services also has the potential to return on investment through improvements in tourist experiences and reduction in public health costs. I have included in the slide a recent survey by Association of Dogs and Cats Home which found that rehoming and rescue sector alone employs over 6,200 full-time and 2,100 part-time roles in the United Kingdom and Republic of Ireland. And that's just one example from one small element of dog population management. And then we have the goal number 1, which is about ending poverty in all its form everywhere. It's clear that DPM can make valuable contribution to ending poverty and vice versa. Poverty eradication measures lead to dog population management programs being introduced and implemented at local level. We know that around the world, dog population management is absent where extreme poverty is present. Dogs are an integral and inseparable part of the fabric of societies across the developing world. And the contribution DPM could make in creating employment, eliminating rabies, boosting physical and mental health, and creating safe and sustainable cities. The individual and the cumulative effect of these will undoubtedly contribute to eradication of extreme poverty. So what is the way forward? Despite the critical role that DPM plays in establishing better societies for dogs and people, it is either ignored or given low priority in many situations. This needs to change. The SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, can only be accomplished via partnerships and cooperation among many stakeholders at all levels, from corporations to civil societies to national and international government agencies. We need a global partnership for humane dog population management. So our call to action is following. We invite civil society organizations from around the world, throughout the world, to initiate and join our campaign, which demands that governments introduce and enforce dog population management policies and laws at national level. Governments foster an enabling environment for the elimination of dog population management programs. Government invest in improving the companion animal veterinary sector, and donor agencies recognize the importance of dog population management in achieving sustainable development and provide more funds to support the implementation of dog population management initiatives across the world. We in ICAM have been able to initiate, we are at the very, very beginning stage of this process. We have initiated this advocacy project, and thanks to the generous support from World Animal Protection. But this is just the beginning, and we have just been able to scratch the surface. There is scope for lots more research, and we invite you to explore this further, do in-depth studies, and share your findings. All of this will strengthen the why of dog population management. The more evidence we have, the better the chances we have to convince government around the world, and ultimately to create better societies for companion animals and humans. Thank you.